In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a career change step by step. I'm going to help you figure out what it is that you want from your career. We're going to cover writing a resume when you're making a career change, how to optimize your LinkedIn profile for a new industry, job search strategies, how to interview for a job which you've never held before, which you have no experience in, the whole shebang. And you're going to get access to tons of different resources, instruction manuals, ebooks, templates, all the tools that you need to go off and start taking action towards hopefully a fulfilling career, or at least a job that has a bit of meaning for you. So without further ado, let's dive right in. Thanks everyone for joining me today for the career change webinar. The goal of today's session is to figure out what you want and then going through all the different strategies on how you're going to get it. And fulfillment at work means different things to all of us. There's no one size fits all. For some of us, it's about having a clear purpose and making an impact. And then for others, it's about making as much money as possible, or simply just finding work that doesn't drain the joy from your life, so you have the energy for what truly matters outside of work. Obviously, the first question you want to ask yourself is, why do you want to make a change? And sometimes it might not be a drastic change that you need. Maybe it's your company, your manager, the salary. Those are your issues. And all of your problems might be solved from moving just to a different company, maybe to a different department within the same company. So that might be the case. And if that is the case, we're going to go through a number of different resources to help you with that. Now, when it comes to, okay, do I need to try something new, completely new? Well, if you're feeling fed up, if you're unfulfilled, if you're just miserable or burnt out, and these feelings have gone on for months and maybe even years, maybe you break your principles every day in your job. It's a moral issue with what you do. Perhaps you see the writing on the wall and there's shifts in new technology like ChatGPT and AI, and you're a little bit concerned about the future of your role. These are all really good reasons why you should make a change. Really, the first step to deciding what you want to do and where you want to go is understanding yourself, understanding your strengths, your interests, your values, understanding what motivates you. So that's where we want to start. And a lot of us will say, oh, I don't know what to do with myself. One place that I strongly recommend you consider is trying to find a job that fits your personality rather than trying to mold your personality to fit a job, because we're all wired very differently. And if you don't enjoy what you do, or you've never enjoyed what you do, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's something wrong with you. It just means that you're probably in the wrong environment, because some of us are just socialites and we love dealing with people. We love managing clients, working with people, talking to people. And then for some of us, that's hell. That, like, we can't stand that. And we'd rather be working remotely on our own, independently. So it could be the case that you just don't like what you're doing because you're forced into a work culture that just naturally drains you. So you'll be much better off finding a role that aligns with who you are. And the first step to finding roles that align with who you are is just thinking about what brings you joy at work and what stresses you out. So a pros and cons list is the obvious method here. And these insights, if you list them all out, they can really help you figure out what career or what role might be right for you. So all of the questions that I'm going to run through will be available in the resource pack, the career planning section, right? So I've mapped out all the different questions, and you don't have to answer each one of these questions. For me, I'm currently going through a career change myself, and filling out worksheets, it's painful. You don't have to do it all, but go through each question and just ponder them and just have a think about them, because it's all about just sparking ideas and motivation, and then following those ideas and seeing, is there something there? So all of the questions that I'm going to run through will be included in the resource pack and that you have access to, but just a few to get the ball rolling. It's good to think about, what you like most about your work. It might not be in your current role, it might be in your past role. What's the highlight of your day? What parts of your job come easy to you? Or what parts of your job feel like, this feels right, I don't feel uncomfortable? Another question to think about is, what was the least stressful job that you had? If that's even if that's even possible. Cons are very important. So if you can map out what you don't like, that can at least narrow down your options. So what parts of your job stress you out the most? What parts of your job do you try and avoid? What parts of your job do you not feel confident in? What drains you or what exhausts you in your role? If there's one thing that you could remove from your job entirely, what would that be? Getting that down on paper will really help you just narrow down the type of career or the type of job that you want to move into. Another helpful exercise, finding your it. So what I mean by your it is that there's people out there who just naturally have a certain skill set. You'll find, I have a friend who's just naturally very disagreeable. And if I'm going to buy a car, I'm bringing him with me because I'm naturally very agreeable. He's very disagreeable naturally. So he'll haggle. He'll happily negotiate on a car. He's just good at that. And it just comes natural to him. And you know these people where things just come natural to them. You know a good storyteller. You know someone who's good with numbers. You know someone who's just really organized. And what you have to remember with people that have these natural abilities to do certain things, to negotiate, to be disagreeable, to be organized, to tell captivating stories. A lot of times, this is just how they're wired. They're not trying. It's just what comes natural to them. And as cheesy as it sounds, we've all got something special to offer that requires no effort on our part. And the funny thing is that there's people who are they're investing in courses, they're investing in training, they're investing in coaching, they're reading books to learn a skill that comes natural to you. So what does come natural to you? How do you find your it? You know, when you say like, he has it, she has it, I don't know what it is, but they have it. We all have something. So one way to figure this out is to talk to people who know you the best, because what you'll find is that you'll just naturally be yourself around people who are close to you, family, friends. And you want to think about the compliments that you've received. If you can think back to any compliment you've received, what exactly did the person say? And have you heard this compliment more than once? And if you haven't, ask your family and friends outrightly, what do you think I'm naturally good at? Because again, these are the people who get to see the closest version of your most authentic self. And when you feel comfortable around people, you just tend to express yourself effortlessly without second guessing yourself or getting in your own way. So if you can work through that, you're going to find clues for discovering what your magic is. A few questions to dig deeper into this is, what would be a topic that you could speak about effortlessly? Think about subjects that you find fascinating that you could study for hours. Maybe there's a certain topic that you go down the rabbit hole on YouTube or Wikipedia constantly, or there's a team of certain topics that you consistently follow. Think of all the times that you get swept away reading something or studying something. This is where your natural curiosity lies. Another good question to ask yourself is, what do people frequently ask you for advice or help on? Again, there's clues in there for finding your truest form of expression. Another few good questions that I've included in the Defining What You Want worksheet is, if you didn't have to make money, what would you spend your time doing? What did you enjoy doing in your childhood? What's the highlight of your day? What's the highlight of your weekend? What is a dream that you've let go of? These are all good questions for just thinking about. What are you good at? What do you enjoy doing? Again, another good thought exercise is to think about the fact that you've managed to get good at something you may dislike. I say here, you dislike. You may not like it. And so good, in fact, that you get paid for it. But imagine how good you could get at something that you actually enjoy, that you're actually interested in. Alan Watts, a philosopher, had a great line where he said that if you can figure out some way in which you get paid for playing, and think about creative professionals, comedians, artists, some content creators are living proof that it is possible. I know a lot of people say it isn't, but it certainly is. I came across this another thought experiment. It's a little bit morbid, but the guy said that, what would you work on if you know you only had a year to live? And when you play with that idea, you kind of figure out, all right, there's so much bullshit that I wouldn't spend any time on. For me, I'd want to have fun. I'd want to, learn more about the topics I'm interested in. I'd stop writing resumes immediately with this thought exercise. So again, it's a helpful way to figure out what you would cut and what you would spend your time doing. What are you interested in? Have a think about your hobbies or activities. Think about if you're a member of any clubs, any groups, any communities, and think about the role that you play within these communities. Are you the planner? Are you the problem solver? What do you do within these communities? Again, there's clues everywhere for what you're good at, what you're interested in. What do you follow for fun? What do you follow? What industries or topics do you follow for fun? Think about podcasts. Think about books you read, YouTube channels that you subscribe to. What are you naturally drawn to? Who inspires you? Look at your personal network and think about the people you admire. Who do you follow on social media? What industries do they work in? Could these fields align with your personality? And through, reflecting on your interests, you can find out who are the people earning a living in these areas. What are the companies or organizations that operate in these areas? You can check out if they have jobs available. You can see what opportunities are available within these industries, and then you can plan from there. And just a few ideas to help you with this thought exercise. If you're a creative, if you're into painting, if you're into photography, there's endless roles, endless design roles out there. If you have a habit for home renovation or fixing things, you could be a product designer, product manager. You might want to start your own gig. You might want to go into consulting. If you're into fitness, wellness coaching, you can do PTing, you can do work. There's so many fitness technology companies out there, the likes of Whoop. You might be interested working with them. If you're into volunteering, you might want to move into nonprofit, into the public sector. If you enjoy planning events or you just naturally organize things, you might want to go into event management, event training, gardening, endless jobs in landscaping. Another good question, again, these are just different questions, different approaches to help spark ideas. Who do you enjoy being around? Because if you're unhappy in your job, it could be that you're just surrounded by the people who are not your people. These are people you would never interact with if you didn't have to work. And I do understand that, it's potluck who you end up beside in your job. But a lot of dissatisfaction at work comes from not just the tasks that we do each day, but from the environment and the people we're doing them with. Now imagine the opposite, where you're working with people that you genuinely enjoy being around, whose values, whose personalities just align with who you are. Imagine solving problems for these people who inspire you. That's going to be a fulfilling career path. So it's also helpful to think about the types of people that you get along with. If you enjoy a type of environment where it's very structured, where it's, very organized, you might lean towards careers that are black and white, like banking or, something involved in a legal department or in a government institution. If you enjoy working on your own, you want to be targeting remote first companies, you want to be freelancing, maybe you want to be consulting. If you enjoy, people who are laid back, a corporate role might not be for you. It might be better off that you target maybe startups, maybe nonprofits. If you're creative, if you enjoy people who are free-spirited, you might want to go into media, into arts. If you're a little bit introverted, perhaps a tech role, IT role might be better for you. Different industries attract different types of people. So trying to figure out the industries where the people you enjoy being around are is a helpful exercise. Another idea for you is many of us, we just want a job that supports what we do outside of work. We don't want to monetize our hobby because that would take the fun away from it. So for many people, a job isn't about following your passion. It's about creating the means to support your passion. So whether that's your hobbies, time with your family, time in your community, or just working on a cause that you care about, your job can provide the financial stability and the flexibility to pursue what you love to do outside of work. So the goal here is to find work conditions that are optimal for you to allow you to explore your passions. Fair pay, good schedule, you're left with energy to do what you want outside of work. So you might want to target less stressful jobs. Now, of course, there's a lot of variables here, but generally less, I'm not saying they've no stress, but Generally, these types of jobs are less stressful. Working in non-profits or charities, in public bodies or government agencies, maybe an outdoor job with a local county council, forest ranger, groundskeeper, general operative, working in parks, these type of roles, working in museums and libraries, in colleges. Again, there's no KPIs. Tour guide or visitor information staff, these type of roles. A job that would allow you to listen to podcasts. Postal worker, delivery driver, maybe a caretaker, tech support in a non-customer facing role. So you're providing support for the employees rather than customers. Working with animals is always a good shout. Creative or quiet fields like working in an antique store, florist, podcast editor, art studio assistant. When it comes to jobs that are likely to stress you out, while there are always exceptions, some industries and roles tend to come with higher stress levels. There's no doubt about it. So if minimizing your stress and maintaining your energy is important to you, you want to steer clear of the likes of startups and any jobs with metrics, KPIs, client-facing roles. Maybe you're introverted and you don't enjoy, maybe dealing with people drains you. Competitive workplaces, investment banking, sales, trader, those type of roles. One strategy for finding a less stressful job is to apply to jobs that you're overqualified for. You're watering down your resume. You're only including what qualifies you in for the job, which I'm going to show you strategies on how to do that later on. But the biggest cause of stress is usually the management team, your manager. They can make or break your experience in your job. So a bad manager can turn even the most stress-free role into a nightmare. We all know that. So while it can be tricky to assess your potential new colleagues in an interview, asking questions that force genuine answers can give you some clues on who's a good manager and who's a bad manager. Again, there's a lot of luck involved with this, but within the resource pack in the job interview guidebook, I've included some questions on how you can identify good and bad managers. Next topic, work you're good at. Why does being good at something give you satisfaction? Well, the better you are at something, the more control you have over what you do and how you do it. Feels good to dictate what you do every day. Autonomy is lovely. And the beautiful thing is you can pick anything to get good at, like really good at. But we've only got so much time in the day. So it might be worth thinking about playing to your strengths. Identify what you are already good at and becoming exceptional in that area. Because the better you become in one domain, the more money people are going to pay you, the more opportunities you're going to get, the more control you'll have over the things you do every day. And that can help bring fulfillment to you. And you probably already know what you're good at. We're all good at something. But if if you need a little inspiration into figuring this out, you want to ask yourself what parts of your job come easy, because what comes easy to you does not come easy to everyone. You can get lost in the work that you do every day, that it becomes second nature, and you can tend to forget how hard it was at the start, especially when you do it every day. Think about when you were most productive. Think about the people that come to you for help. What do they ask you? If you could teach someone something, what would it be? And think about, what have you received praise or recognition for in the past? Another option, going out on your own. And the way you need to think about it is that this might not be an option for you now, but if you pour every ounce of yourself into something, anything, for the next, 5 years, 10 years, you're going to master it. Eventually, you're going to master it. And as a master, you will get a good fee for whatever that thing is. So you can pick the thing you love to do and just dedicate some time to it consistently. Like, we all know that that's what we need to do. Taking action on that, of course, is the most difficult part, of course. But you can always build your new thing on the side while keeping your day job, and you can get momentum as well. One way that you can get momentum is just taking a week off work and just going gung-ho on what it is that you think you want to do, and that will give you a start, so that when you go back to your job, you can tip away at it. You can tip away at it when you have the most energy. That might be the morning before you go to work, or it might be in the evening after work. It depends on your nature. Another option that you might be worth exploring is, can you, this is something that I've done, is can you cover your salary for a couple of months while you build the thing that you want to build? So what I've done is I've taken out a business loan that covers my salary for 3 months, and I'm using that business loan to build the thing that I believe I want to do. Now, of course, there's a bit of risk with that. You don't know if it's going to work. But I found that unless I can focus on my new venture with no distractions, I'm never going to do it. So I was like, right, okay, this is the time to just a little bit of risk, take the time out and go for it and see what happens. That might not be an option for you, but that's what I've had to do. When it comes to starting your own gig, a good question to ask yourself is, what is something you have done for so long that people would pay you to coach them on? Another option, and I want to demo this lady here, her name is Roz Purcell, and she has an Instagram page here called The Hike Life. And if you click her link tree here, she has a book about all the different hikes in Ireland. And essentially, all this lady has done here is gone on hikes, recorded content, and built a following online, and then packaged all the hikes that she's gone on into a book that makes it easy for people to go on hikes. Now, I'm not trying to say this is easy, what she's done here, but all Roz has done is followed her natural curiosity, and there's no reason why you can't do this yourself with whatever you're interested in. Recreating your own version of this model is very doable. Take what I do, for example. I leveraged my recruitment experience and just started recording TikToks about CV and resume tips. And after a couple of videos, people were asking me to write their resume. So that led to building up a social media following once I did it every day consistently. And there's no secret sauce. It's literally just showing up and talking about what you have knowledge on and what you enjoy doing. And if you do a little bit every day, the rest tends to take care of itself. Now, to help you with this entire process, I've given you access to the folder number 8. I have another webinar on setting up your own side hustle, starting your own business. So check that out after this session if this is something that you're interested in and you want to explore more. And a great quote is, again, from Alan Watts, is it's better to have a short life full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way. Now, this doesn't mean that you quit your job tomorrow without a plan, but it does mean that you're taking steps, no matter how small, to move forward towards work that might fulfill you. Now, a fulfilling career doesn't always have to align with your passion. It can also just be about securing financial freedom. If your goal is to get promoted, to land a juicy wage, you want to think strategically about your career progression. So you want to join the most valuable job family within the most valuable job industry. Now, a job family is a group of roles with similar skills and knowledge. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you are a software engineer. If you work at Apple, you're going to make the most amount of money versus if you were to work for Procter and Gamble, because Apple is going to invest more money in technology versus a pharmaceutical company. So you want to be targeting the companies that specialize within your domain. Like my brother works for Irish Life, which is an insurance company, and he's making a good wage, but he would make way more working for a technology company like Apple, like Microsoft. So that's what I mean by targeting companies and industries strategically. And when you get in with these companies, generally you want to be targeting global companies if you want to make the most amount of money, because they're trying to be competitive, obviously, with other companies in their domain. But you want to track your achievements no matter what position you're in. You want to create a wins folder. So this is like a screenshot of any positive feedback that you've received. And you want to make your work visible. So even if it's just a weekly report or monthly report, letting your management, your team, letting them know what you're working on every week. And not only does this highlight your hard work, but it also creates a paper trail to support your future salary negotiations. And you also want to volunteer for different work or different projects that makes the company money or saves the company money, because this is where most of the value is going to be. You want to avoid taking on menial tasks, rather the big picture tasks. So you want to be strategic about what you work on as well. There's a lot of debate around job hopping as well, but if you can job hop every 3 years, every 2 years, you're likely going to get a pay bump each time you change jobs. And especially when you hit a ceiling in the company that you're in now. So is there even a ladder to climb where you are now? There might not be. You also want to talk to recruiters a couple of times a year just to get a feel for the market and how much companies are paying. And within the resource pack, I've included a salary negotiation playbook, and this includes all the different strategies to maximizing your take-home pay when you get a new job or even in your current role as well. So I'd have a read of that. As well as this, if you want to play these games, you want to network internally, you want to build relationships with people in the company, and you want to proactively speak with your manager and tell them what you want. Tell them that, you're aiming for this job title or you want this type of work. Tell them, because if they don't know, they're not going to guess. So you have to be very proactive with how you communicate what you want from the company you work at. Another option is to work for a cause. This might be a charity that supported someone that you know. It might be a company that you admired or mission. It might be a company whose products that you use every day and you want to make them better. These are companies that align with your morals. And if you're sick of corporate, it might be worth considering targeting small businesses, local businesses, or startups who align with, your own principles. Nonprofits or public sector roles, maybe healthcare roles. If you're supporting a company that's innovating in healthcare, that might feel near and dear to your heart, and that might give you satisfaction. Maybe you want to find work that fits your personal life, and it's worth entertaining the question of what would your perfect workday look like. Now, this might not be possible now, but by mapping it out and identifying what your perfect day would look like, at least you can start moving towards it. For me, I just want autonomy. I want to be left alone to work. I don't want any meetings. And the only way I could get that was through setting up my own shop. So if you can identify what it is you want, at least you can aim at it, and at least you can start communicating it to your current manager and at least getting closer to it. And I love this from Eddie here, where he talks about what he wants his workday to look like. And when you're negotiating for a new position, you want to set out your non-negotiables. Maybe it's fully remote. Maybe it's having flexible hours so that you can pick up the kids at lunchtime. And sometimes, I keep pushing because I have a bias, because I am self-employed, but sometimes it's the case that the only way you'll get what you want is if you set up your own shop. Now, crazy things can happen. This was a DM I received from a lady who negotiated a 3-day work week. So she has a 4-day weekend to enjoy with the kids. Now, obviously, this is not common, but things can happen. Now, how she went about it was that she provided evidence that she had done the job that she was applying for. She gave the employer, her new employer, a plan of how she was going to add value from day one. She told the employer what she wanted. If she hadn't told the employer, she wouldn't have got it. So if you don't ask, you don't get. And then she finished with a strong closing statement to say, look, I'll sign right now if, and then laid out her demands. So it is possible to get what you want from your current employer or a new employer within reason, of course. And we're going to talk about some strategies on how to do that within the application stage. You might have a few ideas now, or you might not. You might be more lost than you were when you signed up for this. But after the fact, after we finish up, it's worth going through that defining what you want worksheet. Hopefully you'll get clearer on what you want. And hopefully you'll identify your strengths and your preferences. And when you do that, then it will be time to research jobs that fit your personality and fit your skill set. The first place to go is job boards because they are listing positions. And rather than searching by job titles, if you focus on the parts of your job that you enjoy, you'll find jobs that may not have the job title that you were thinking of, but have the work that you want to do. So these are some different ways that you can use job boards to find, work that you enjoy. I've also included in the resource pack a number of different links for finding jobs that you may enjoy. The Holland Code Career Test is a really good test. There's a link here for it. It's free. It takes a couple of minutes. It's really quick. You just bang through it and it will give you a list of careers that align with your interests and your skill set. Now, there's loads of different career tests. If you're lost, it's worth just diving into them and seeing what pops up. No harm in it. So I've included different links there in folder 1, career planning. Spend some time going through those to get some ideas. ChatGPT as well. ChatGPT is just getting better and better every couple of months. And what it's doing now, it's remembering what you have entered into the chat. So it's learning about you. So it can be a very useful tool for finding different career paths that align with who you are. So in the resources, I've included a couple of prompts that you can throw into ChatGPT. You don't need to screenshot this. They're in there. And just play around with it. It's a very useful exercise. And if you feel stuck, if you don't have a clue, just try and give yourself some time to think. I've been pondering different career paths for the last year and a half, and it does take time. You do have to trial and error. You do have to test the waters. I've had 2 or 3 different ideas, and the more I learned about them, and the more I learned about the logistics of operating in that industry, the more I realized it wasn't for me. So give yourself time to think, experiment, try lots of different things. You might need to hire a career coach as well, just to dive even deeper. Just like you'd hire a PT if you were going to the gym, you might need to hire a career coach to just get you moving if you're really stuck. But it's worth, if you have an interest, following that and assessing, is this for me or not? You might freelance, you might volunteer, you might take an online course, whatever it is. Just explore and see, does anything tickle your fancy? And by experimenting, it will bring you closer to finding work that aligns with what you want. But it is about just trying lots of different things. If you have an idea of what you want to move into, or maybe you have to go through the different reflection processes to figure this out. But if you get an idea of what you want to do, you want to gather as much information as possible, you want to talk to people who work in the role that you're targeting. You can find these people on LinkedIn. They might be in your network already. And you just want to ask them, I'm planning to move from X to Y. What would be the first best step that I could take? Or what would be the best course to study, or the best certificate to get, or these type of questions. You want to talk to people who are in the role that you want to get into. So this could be people on LinkedIn, it could be friends, family, ex-colleagues, managers, anyone. Have a think about who's in your network. And you can also talk to people who've made the change that you want to make. Now, I'm going to provide you with a link to my LinkedIn optimization webinar as well. And this is included. And I run through the process of finding people who have made the career change you want to make. But essentially, you're just using the filters to put in the industry that you're targeting. And then in the past company filter, you're just adding in the biggest companies who operate in your current industry. And when you hit search, you'll find people who work in your target industry who previously worked for one of the biggest companies in your current industry. And you can connect with these people. You can ask for advice. If they're not active on LinkedIn, you can try and track down their email using a tool. Hunter.io is a good tool for finding emails, and you can just drop them an email. And I know the hit rate might be quite low with this process, but it's worth a shot. Another option that I have used umpteen times is paying people for their time, because people are busy and they might not reply to your message. But If you give them an offer to say, look, I'll pay you fucking, 100 quid for a training session on how to learn animation, which is something that I've done. And you can find people who work in your target domain, not only on LinkedIn, but on the likes of Fiverr and Upwork. If you wanted to be a video editor, you could go to Fiverr, type in video editing, and then find a video editor and say, look, would you be able to train me on how to make promo videos or whatever it is? So these are all the different ways that you can just learn more about your target role or target industry and start to get the skills, develop the skills that you need. And when you're talking with these people, you want to find out what would they recommend you do to get the experience and to learn what you need to learn. You also want to assess your readiness, because just because you haven't held a specific job title or worked in a certain industry, it doesn't mean that you lack the skills or the ability to succeed in the role. There are some career changes that are going to take time, but there are some that are accessible right now due to overlapping skill sets. A few examples here: if you're a school teacher, you could become a project manager right off the bat, recruiter to account manager, sales to marketing, retail to customer service, admin, accounting to data analyst, so on and so forth. A lot of these roles have so many overlapping duties and responsibilities that you can present yourself as a qualified candidate. And I'm going to show you that in part 2 on how to go about that. So you want to figure out, when you have an idea of what you want to do, can you dive straight in? You want to look at job listings. You want to look at LinkedIn profiles of people who work in the role that you're targeting. And you want to see what are the must-haves, the required, the basic qualifications, the key responsibilities. You want to get familiar with what companies are asking for. And then you want to determine, do you have these skills? Do you have these qualifications? Maybe you have to highlight the different gaps in your skill sets, and you have to figure out how you're going to fill those gaps, either through self-learning, through YouTube, through courses or certificates, whatever it is. And then it's just about setting up a schedule for you to develop those skills and making a plan. And then when you feel like you have those skills, then it's party time. You also want to audit your finances. It can be very helpful to figure out how much you need to survive every month. You might need to remove all the non-essentials, which can help reduce financial pressure. And then you want to review job listings and look at salary calculators and see how much could you earn in this new role, in this new industry. You can also leverage your current employer and ask them either to pay for your training or ask about in-house training programs. If you are asking your employer to pay for training, you want to pitch it by selling the outcomes. How will your employer benefit from the new skill set? Will it make them money? Will it save them money? Will it be a combination of both? If you can frame your request in terms of what's in it for your employer, it gives you a chance of being able to get them to pay for training. That is worth considering. Can you get the experience where you are now? So again, getting very familiar with the job that you're targeting, looking at job listings, seeing, are there any duties or responsibilities that you can take on right now? Can you volunteer for different projects? Can you decide to take on more responsibilities? Have a look around your department or your company. Is there something that they're not doing or could be doing better that you could take care of? And then once you identify the gaps, come up with a proposal, explain the problem, how the company benefits, and then off you go. So think about it. Think about the job that you're looking to get into and find out what are the duties, what are the responsibilities, and then seeing, is there a way that you can do them where you are now? And once you take on these duties or these responsibilities or volunteer for different projects or shadow people in the department that you're looking to get into, the industry that you're looking to get into, make sure you're updating your resume with the new responsibilities, with the duties, and that way you've already begun your transition. You can also build your own experience as well. So it's not good, like a lot of the times it's not good enough just learning about the skill. You want to showcase it in the real world. What I'd recommend doing is immersing yourself in your target field. You want to follow the influencers. You want to follow the people that are running the game, and you want to see how they operate, and you want to see their business model. You want to see if they're a marketer, for example, you want to see how they operate, their newsletter, their sign up form. You want to study them. And that way then you can see how you can develop your own personal projects. You could start your own newsletter. You could build a sample website. You could set up a freelancer profile on Fiverr or Upwork and build your portfolio and get testimonials. Loads of different ways that you can start building a portfolio and then linking that on your CV, on your resume, on your LinkedIn profile to show employers that you already have the skills and you can use them. Other options, graphic design. A good idea I came across was most charities, especially local charities, they're not going to have flashy logos or flashy cover photos. You could offer to design their social media brand profile, and when they upload it, you can add that to your portfolio. Personal training, you could train family and friends, use the before and after photos as your social proof. Creative industries, you could start a podcast, you could start creating content, post memes, a lot of fun, and build from there. Other ideas for building your own experience would be to start a side hustle, like I talked about, volunteer, freelance. Maybe you have to take on part-time work on the weekend. That's another option. And then joining communities, professional associations, clubs, communities, adding that to your CV or resume. It shows employers that you've already decided to invest in the new industry. That can only help. Now it's time to cover building your new resume. Now we're going to come on to LinkedIn as well. This is a very tricky part of making a career change. How do you present yourself as a qualified candidate when you don't have experience in a particular role? It's tricky, but we have solutions, right? For you to get invited for an interview, you need to show that you're capable of meeting the requirements and managing the key responsibilities listed in the job description. So to prove that you can manage these requirements, what you want to focus on is your direct experience, your similar experience, and your transferable skills. Because you might not always have every duty and responsibility ticked off, but you might have a couple. And then within that list of duties and qualifications, you might have some similar experience that you can tie back to the job. But you always have the transferable skills. So these are the three areas that in order to get invited for the interview, you need to focus on. This all starts with understanding your target role, getting a very in-depth understanding of what your target companies are looking for by carefully reviewing the job descriptions and getting very familiar with them. You want to start by, within the job description, the overview or the summary will tell you exactly what the company is looking for. And within that paragraph at the start of the job description, it will often explain the purpose of the role and how that role fits into the organization. So by reading this first, you'll have a clearer understanding of the context behind the duties and responsibilities. And with this context, you can then interpret how each task contributes to the overall goals of the job. And with this knowledge, you'll be able to position yourself far more effectively. You'll be able to position yourself as the solution. So pay very close attention to the qualifications, to the responsibilities, to the skills listed throughout the job description. And a great website for this is wordclouds.com. And if you put in the job description into wordclouds.com, it will just highlight the most important terms, skills, responsibilities. It gives you a visual representation of them. So it's worth copying in the job description to WordCloud and just getting familiar with the jargon and just seeing what's important for the role. To identify your direct experience, to identify your similar experience and transferable skills in the resources, right? This is probably, this is a very time consuming, there's no easy way to do this, right? I've tried to make it as easy as possible, but in the resume writing folder, I've put together an instruction manual. Now, if you have been in my previous webinar on resume writing, or if you've watched my YouTube tutorial, I do have a similar instruction manual to this, but this has been edited to focus on career changing. And if you follow this instruction manual from start to finish, it's going to make the process a lot easier. Again, there's no shortcuts. It will take time. Even with ChatGPT, it's going to take time. But this instruction manual will just make sure that you're doing everything possible to give yourself the best chance of landing the interview. Now, when you go off and start building your new resume, you want to start from A to Z. What we're going to cover here in this webinar is the professional experience section 2, okay? What I have done here, if you go to step 2, rewrite and tailor your experience, I have put together a list of questions. What you want to do is you want to have the job description open, ideally on another monitor, but you can have it on your phone, and then on your laptop or on your computer, you want to answer these questions, right, to help identify your relevant experience for the job that you're targeting. So if you run through these different questions, again, step 2, rewrite and tailor your experience, run through these different questions, it will help you recall your most relevant experience. It will give you ideas on what you can add to your resume to qualify you for your target role. What I do if I was you is I go through each of these questions and just anything that comes to mind, just write it down. Write it down, and then you'll have a fair idea of how you're qualified for the job. Again, it's just about uncovering as many responsibilities and duties that you've managed that relate to your target role. The next step will be filling in the worksheet. Filling in the worksheet, again, in step 2. And what you want to do here, right? I've put together a table. Again, it's not straightforward, but from writing hundreds of resumes, this is the easiest way that I can try and communicate it. But essentially, right, you want to go to this table and copy in the duties, the responsibilities, the requirements from your target job, all right? And then under the direct experience heading, if you have any direct experience managing the duties and the requirements, you want to add it here. Now, you don't have to worry about perfect grammar or anything like that. Just do a brain dump. Now, you might not have direct experience, but you might have similar experience. So, for example, if the company uses Salesforce to track customer data, but you use Excel, that would be similar experience. So you want to add that to the similar experience tab. And again, because you've answered the questions above on finding your similar experience, you're going to have way more ideas for filling in this table. Once you've done that, once you've identified your direct and similar experience, it's time to move to your transferable skills. So again, I would add all the different skills listed like project management, communication, problem solving, whatever is listed in the job description, list them out here. And then in the how I demonstrated this skill, you want to explain how you use the skill and explaining what you did, how you did it, and the positive outcome or result that came from you implementing that skill. Now, if you want to find out what are the main skills for a particular job, I'll show you now, 1 second. So if you scroll down on the job, you'll see here qualifications, show qualification details, and it will have all the different skills, transferable skills for this job. So if I was applying for this job, I'd copy each of these skills into this table. Obviously, you organize it a bit better. And then I'd add examples of how I demonstrated this skill. And what I'm saying here is that you're just providing a rough description of what you did, how you did it, and what good came out of your work. You want to talk about outcomes. You want to talk about how you saved money, how you generated money. You want to talk about how you reduced risk, all that good stuff, right? Again, I've included instructions with each part of this exercise. But when you do that, and you do it for each job that you held, so second most recent job, third most recent job, and you're doing your direct experience, similar experience, and transferable skills. When you do all that, then you want to throw it into ChatGPT to tidy it up. Now, of course, you can tidy it up yourself, but I've included a prompt in the instruction manual that will take what you've written in these tables so that you can add it to your new resume. And you want to rinse and repeat that for each job you held. And if you do that, all you're going to be left with is the skills and experience that qualify you for your target role. And that's going to give you the best chance of getting past the application stage. when you throw it into ChatGPT, will this create a higher chance of being caught in AI checkers? Yeah. So Sinead, you have to, the way you need to think about it is that a person is reading your resume, right? So what ChatGPT gives you, if it seems robotic, if it seems very, very fluffy or very wordy, you want to edit it yourself with your own industry knowledge, with your own expertise. And within the instruction manual, I've included a section on, is it here? Yeah, final edits. So if you go to section 11, I have prompts and different instructions on how to make the language more natural. So I definitely explore that. Yeah, that's true, Poku. You don't want to take anything it says at face value, but it does do most of the heavy lifting. There's no doubt about it. Other areas of your CV, your resume that you want to focus on when you're making a career change. So your professional experience, most important, okay? You want to make sure that you're only focusing on the duties and the responsibilities that your new hiring manager cares about. But other areas that you can focus on is your professional summary. Now, within your resume, you don't want to include anything that introduces doubt about your ability to do the job. So you'll see here, I have phrases to avoid in the professional summary section of the instruction manual. Seeking to bring, transitioning, aspiring, looking to break into. I would avoid all of these phrases. You want to focus on the skills and the experience that qualify you for the job. So how you do this is that you include the different skills that are transferable. You include the industries that you've worked in. You include the different clientele that you've worked in that are relevant for your target role. So I've put together a template for you to use, okay? And essentially, you're just including the number of years experience you have, if relevant, in the different areas that are important to the hiring manager. If you have worked in the different industries, in the industry that you're targeting, you want to mention that. And then if you have an achievement to back up that experience, you include it. So I have examples here. If I work in customer service and I'm moving to project management, I'm going to focus on skills like team leadership, project coordination, process improvement. I'm going to mention the sectors that are relevant. This is the way you need to think about it. So to give you an idea of how to rework your resume, to rework your professional summary, to help you get qualified in for your target role, in the resume writing folder, I've included 3 examples. There's no one right way to do this. You can do it lots of different ways, right? But these are just different examples to inspire how you're going to do it. So here I'm saying 10 years of experience in listing the different skills. And then I have a career highlights section. And here I'm adding the skill that is relevant for the job. And then I'm including an achievement or a duty or a responsibility that proves I have experience in that area. So this is one way you can go about it. And this is one way that you can take the attention away from your lack of experience and focusing it on your ability to do the job. Another example here, you can lead with achievements, 3 bullet points, proving that you have the skills in the area. And then you can highlight your certifications. You can highlight any extracurricular activities that prove you have experience in your target field. You can add certs, and you can also add a key skills section as well. And again, you're just focusing on the skills that are listed in your target role. So there's lots of different ways that you can go about this. But essentially, you want to use your professional summary and focus it on what the hiring manager cares about. And then in the instruction manual, another key area to focus on when you're making a career change is your job title. So you can tinker around with your job title. If you go to the Changing Job Titles tab in the instruction manual, you'll see here different examples of how you can add a dual job title. So let's say I'm an administrator, but I'm applying for an event planner position, and I do some event planning in my role as an administrator. That would be my job title. It shows the hiring manager that I have experience in the job that they're hiring for. You can also add the area of specialization. If you're an account executive, but you want to move into sales, you could add the area that you specialize in or one of the areas that you specialize in. So take time to look through the changing job titles as well to see how you can relate your experience to the role that you're targeting. You also want to exclude all unrelated experience. If it's not in the job description, you don't include it. If it is in the job description, you try and include it. And I mean everything from fucking Microsoft Word. If it's listed in the job description, it's important. You also want to play around with the structure. So maybe you move your education to the top because that shows you have developed skills in that particular area. That's one way you can do it. One other area that you can focus on is your company description. So I've included a template within the instruction manual, but you want to see, can you find parts of your work that relate to your target role? So if the customers are the same, you want to mention that. You want to mention that you worked with cybersecurity, you served clients in the cybersecurity industry. You want to try and get as much relevant information on your resume. The company description can do this really well, so have a look at that as well. So what I recommend you do with your resume is go through the instruction manual from start to finish. Take your time with it. It's going to be a pain in the arse. It's going to take time. But if you use it alongside ChatGPT, it will make it easier. If you use the instruction manual, it will save you a lot of time and it will make sure that you're following all the best practices. When it comes to writing a cover letter, when you're making a career change, you need to help the employer connect the dots. You're not trying to convince them that you can make the change and it will work. Rather, you're focusing it on, they need help with X, I have done X, and I've proven it by doing Y. So this is why you need to invite me for an interview. Now, within the resource pack, in the cover letter folder, I've included a template that you can use. So have a look at that and tinker around with it. But essentially, you want to get across your why. I know most of us, we need a job to support us financially, but if you can find a genuine reason why you want to join that particular company, not every hiring manager is going to read the cover letter, but there are plenty out there that value cover letters and will prioritize candidates that have taken the time to write one. So if you're making a career change, you need to be doing everything you can to increase the probability in your favor. So I'd highly recommend writing a cover letter, trying to find a connection with the company, maybe their mission, maybe their culture, maybe their values. Maybe you use their products, their services, you want to make them better. Any type of personal angle that you can take is going to help a lot. And again, you want to use what you've written in your resume to focus on how you have solved similar problems to what the hiring company is facing. You also want to talk about how you'll do the job, because if you can prove that you have a methodology for getting into the job and performing from day one, it's going to reduce and alleviate a lot of the concerns that an employer will have. You don't want to mention any phrases, again, you don't want to mention anything that makes you weak, aspiring, new to the industry, hoping I can make an impact. None of that. So have a look at the template in the instruction manual. When it comes to LinkedIn, you want to update your profile for the job that you want, not the job that you had. You need to think about LinkedIn as Google SEO. The more keywords and phrases that you can incorporate into your profile, the more likely it is that you will show up in the recruiter's search results. And if you can show up for recruiters, it's going to increase the likelihood that they reach out to you. So I've included in the resource pack, I've included a link to my LinkedIn optimization guide. But a few general tips is that you want to make sure that recruiters can message you. So go to your settings, make sure everything is public, turned on. If you have a LinkedIn premium profile, you will have more visibility to recruiters. So you can get a free month, cancel straight away so you don't get charged, and still get a month of premium. When optimizing your LinkedIn profile, you want to figure out what job titles recruiters are using on LinkedIn. So go to LinkedIn jobs. Let's say I'm typing in, or I'm targeting recruitment positions, they use different job titles for different jobs. So if I'm applying for a recruiter position, but I see here talent acquisition partner, I'm also going to be working in the terms talent acquisition partner, talent development partner, sourcer. I'm going to be trying to work in all the different ways that recruiters title the job that I want. As well as that, you want to go through maybe go through 5 to 10 job descriptions, find out what are the most commonly listed skills and incorporate them into your profile. With your headline, you don't want to include terms, again, that introduce any doubt. So aspiring, seeking to bring, none of that. With your LinkedIn headline, of course, you don't want to mislead recruiters. So you want to try and find titles or terms that link your experience to your target role. A few examples. If you're a teacher, but you're moving into a corporate role, you could say educational program developer. It's a bit word salady, but it's better than saying school teacher. It's more corporate. And then you can add any certifications you have related to your field. And then you can talk about the different transferable skills you have. So if you're a teacher, you can talk about how you specialize in project management, in stakeholder management, in program delivery. If you're a retail manager, you're going to HR. The link between those two roles could be people operations specialist. Then you're mentioning the certificates, you're mentioning the different skill sets that you have that relate to your new target role. So I've included a few examples here of how you can keyword optimize your headline based on your new target role. So take inspiration from this. It could take a bit of back and forth with ChatGPT to knuckle down on what your headline might be. With your basic information, you want to change your industry to your target industry. You want to make sure your location is city, because a lot of us will just have the country. It's too general. You won't show up in recruiter searches. If you have a portfolio, link that to your profile. Set up your open to work. When you rewrite your resume, you can use the professional summary as your introduction in your about section on your profile. You can use your cover letter to get across your why within your about section. You want to throw in achievements, you want to throw certifications, you want to include all the different skills and technical skills that you have. And in the webinar that's linked in the resource pack, I show you how to do all of this. Can you tinker around with your job title? So there might be some wiggle room, there might not be, but your job title carries the most weight in the recruiter search. So if you can figure out ways to work in your target job title, that will really help you. Within your description of your job, I'll pull it up here, 1 second. So in your description, you can work in your target job by saying things like collaborated with, let's say I'm going into project management. I could say collaborated with the project manager on, and then list out my duties and responsibilities. So that's one way that you can work in your target job title to your LinkedIn profile. So that's the way you need to think about it. How can I work in my target job title and the variations of my target job title as many times as possible? Again, your education, your certifications, your volunteer work, your memberships, your featured section, your skills section, these are all areas that you can optimize. If you're unemployed, you want to add an active role to rank higher. In the webinar, I show you how to do that. It can be helpful to get recommendations on your profile. You want to connect with recruiters at your target companies, add them to your network. The more recruiters you're connected with, the more chances you have of getting contacted by a recruiter, because if a recruiter is a first, second, or third level connection with you, they don't have to use up one of their email credits to message you, which increases the chances that you get contacted by them. You can also signal your interest to companies. I'll show you how to do this. 1 second. Yeah, so if you go to a company profile, click the jobs tab, you can set up alerts for the different roles that you want. And if you go to the about tab, you can say you're interested in working in that company. And that way recruiters will see this on their back end, and this increases the chances that they'll contact you. When it comes to landing a job in your target role, one of the easiest ways to go about this, or straightforward, is to move internally where you are now. So you let your current manager know your goals. And even if it isn't possible now, you're planting seeds, you're letting them know that this is what I'm interested in. can we look at it in the future? Other ways you can go about this, you want to network with the people who are in your target role within where you work. And maybe you want to shadow them. Maybe you want to volunteer to help them with projects. Of course, your workload will increase, but it does give you the experience that you need to make the career change. You can also aim for a bridging role. So a bridging role is a stepping stone to switching industries while working in the same job. So the focus here is doing your current job in a new industry. So if I'm a bookkeeper and I want to move to marketing, I could find a bookkeeping job at a marketing company. And then that way I'm one step closer to my target role. You also want to check your network. Again, you're going to bypass a lot of the bullshit with applying for jobs online if you have a contact on the inside. So go through your phone list, your contact list on your phone, go through your LinkedIn profile, think back to teachers, think back to ex-colleagues, think back to anyone you know and see, can they connect you with someone who works in your target industry? You might have to target entry-level positions as well, and this will involve watering down your resume. You're only including experience that the hiring manager is looking for, nothing more, nothing less. Another option is to consider contract or temporary roles because they generally have less competition, quicker turnaround times, and once you're in a company, then you can start to network and apply for internal job opportunities as well. Another thing to think about is what industry would value your experience. So think about any suppliers or vendors or distributors. If I work in retail, the manufacturers that sell to the retailers would value my experience. So have a think about, who do you deal with? What vendors do you deal with in your role? Could you offer them value? Could you offer them industry insights? That's one way to think about it. Now, in the resource pack, folder 5, job search checklist, I've included different ways that you can add value up front with your application. And with this, it's about alleviating any concerns that an employer might have because you don't have direct experience. You'll find here in the adding value up front, I have a link to the different ways that you can influence the hiring process. Worth taking a look at. It doesn't have to be anything super detailed. It can just be a few general ideas or your general methodology for doing the job. And here's an example from someone who used this strategy who had no experience in the industry, which was Web3. She tailored her resume, Brianna did. She applied directly by email. She joined a Web3 community to learn the lingo, and she built a 30, 60, 90-day plan to show how she would do the job and how she would succeed in the job. And she had already identified opportunities in their marketing strategy. So these are different ways that you can approach your career change. You can, again, alleviate concerns for your target hiring manager. You can also use ChatGPT to brainstorm ideas. You can ask ChatGPT to generate proposals, different ways that you can go about this. These prompts can be found within the job search checklist in the influence the hiring process. You'll find the prompts that I had on screen all listed in here. Now, when it comes to job interviews, right, you obviously want to understand what the company does, how they make money, who their competitors are. You want to review their website. You want to see, just learn all the general information you can about the company. You can also get into the financials of the company through crunchbase.com, and this can give you insights that you can leverage with your application and within the interview. Obviously, again, you want to have an in-depth understanding of the job spec to help you prepare for questions within the interview. Each requirement on the job spec you can turn into a name a time question within the job interview guidebook. In the job interviews folder, you will find different ways that you can use the Carl method, which is similar to the STAR method, but just far more effective. You also want to find out what is the real job description? What are the goals that the company is after? So when you're in the interview, you want to find out, if you could fast forward 12 months from now, what do you hope is achieved, or what would make this hire an overwhelming success? And when they give you an answer, you can follow up and say, okay, that's great, but what are the challenges in the way of achieving those goals. And by asking these questions, you will find out exactly what the hiring company is after, and what they are after is going to be similar to what other companies are after. So this information will serve you across every interview. Now, if you're going into an interview where you have no industry experience, you want to prepare answers for the areas that you lack experience in. So you want to draw on your similar experience. You want to draw on how you can make a comparison to your similar experience and back it up with an accomplishment, with what good came out of your work. You also want to talk about your transferable skills. You want to talk about how you might not have direct experience, but you've used the skills needed to do the job, and you've proven that you can use these skills by adding success to your answer, showing how you've used your skills to bring your past company's success. And that's why you're confident that you can do the job. You also want to talk about how you have worked in new industries in the past, how you have worked with new clients, new markets, how you did stuff for past employers that involved a lot of unknowns, that involved a lot of ambiguity, involved you not having all of the information needed, but because you were resourceful, because you were able to figure it out, because you were able to learn on the fly, you were able to handle all of these problems. So this is the way you need to think about it. Think of stories where you had to learn quickly on the fly, how you had to deal with problems when you didn't have all the answers, and turn everything into a positive. You control the narrative in the interview. So, did you have experience with whatever tool? No, but you have experience in learning new tools. And not only did you learn new tools on the fly, but you also trained your colleagues on how to use the new tools. So think about how you can change the narrative to a positive and talk about your similar success. You also want to have a clear methodology for how you would do the job. So this might involve going back and forth with ChatGPT, developing a proposal, developing a 30, 60, 90-day plan like I showed you with Brianna, just alleviating any concerns that the manager might have. You can also put together a proposal like I've included in the job search checklist. Again, this will help you with showing that you have the ability to do the job. You also want to ask humble brag questions, which are ways that you can demonstrate your skills and experience with the questions that you ask at the end of the interview. So, you could say, I've had a lot of success using this tool and that tool, and we were able to do this and that. Will I get a chance to use this in this role? So that's one way that you can finish the interview on a strong positive by really selling yourself. And like I talked about, it's very helpful to find a genuine reason why you want to join the particular company. That's going to help you a lot. If you can get across that you're invested in the idea of working at this company, the employer is going to be more likely to invest in you. And when it comes to the interview, you don't want to over explain or justify anything. You don't want to use any of these weak phrases that we talked about. I'm hoping to do this. I'm hoping to learn XYZ. It's like, no, you tell them what you've done. You tell them how you can do it. And you also want to record the interview as well, because you can analyze what went well, what didn't go well, and what you need to improve for the next one. So to wrap up, I love this quote here from Paolo. I can never pronounce his name. We'll just call him Paolo. One day you'll wake up and there won't be any more time to do the thing you've always wanted. Do it now. I'm saying this to you, but I'm also saying it to myself. The perfect day isn't coming. We can get as much information as possible. Like we can. You'll always think you need more information, but until you start taking action, you won't learn what you need to learn. You're only going to figure it out by taking the first step and then going, okay, didn't realize I needed to learn this, or didn't realize I needed to do this. So then you go off and do that and learn this, and then you can take step 2 and step 3 and so on and so forth. So all of us, you, me, we just need to take action. We need to take the first step. We need to just do the thing that we know we need to do. A lot of times we already know what we need to do. Find the time where you have the most energy to do that thing. Give yourself space to do it, either on the weekend or taking off some annual leave, or like me, I've taken out a business loan so I can focus on the thing that I want to do. There's unlimited ways that you can go about it, but you need to figure out what it's going to take for you to take that first step. and take that second step. That's what you need to do. You need to take action. You have enough information. You know yourself. I know myself. I have enough information. It's just about doing the damn thing. And the beautiful thing is, no matter what happens, if it doesn't work out, you've gained so much knowledge through the process that through that process you've developed skills that will take you to the next step. So nothing is in vain. You're always leveling up. You're always developing yourself, and that will position you for the next opportunity or the next thing you want to do. So you can reinvent yourself as many times as you want. There are no rules. All of them are made up. It's just about trying different things, seeing what you like, and if you like it, following it. If you don't like it, cross it off the list and try the next thing, and just keep iterating and test lots of different things out. I've been a web designer, I've been a recruiter, I've made memes for people. I've tried loads of different things that I realized I don't want to do. So I'm on to the next thing. I don't know of a better process. That's it. That's really it. And if you're unsure about what you want to do, usually it's just that you haven't tried enough things. So try more things, even as a hobby. It doesn't have to be work related. And it's never too late to start believing in yourself either. You can reinvent yourself and just say, I am this person now who does this and does that. It's all in your head, man and woman. And there's people out there who are no more capable than you that already have what you want or are already doing what you want to do. So aim at something. If you're aiming at something, that at least creates the possibility that you're going to get it. If you have this lens on of what you want, then you'll start to only see the opportunities that align with what you want. And all of that just brings you closer to getting what you want. So that wraps up everything. It's been a long one. We've gone 20 minutes over the mark. Go through the resource pack that I've sent you. If you need the link, it's pinned in the chat. Run through the resources. I'll upload the webinar replay if you need to go through it again. And that's it, really. I'm going to stop presenting now. I have a sore head. I'm just going to go. If you have any questions, drop them in now. And then if you have any questions after the fact, drop me an email. Charlene, weak phrases. What I mean by weak phrases is saying things that introduce doubt about your ability. Things like, I'm aspiring to be a data analyst. I'm hoping to become a data analyst. I'm seeking to get into the healthcare industry. To an employer, they just see, all right, this person isn't qualified. So the way you need to think about it is that you only want to communicate information that proves you can do the job. Jake, any advice on fear of failure when taking risks, starting a business? Yeah, Jake, no, it is terrifying. It is, because I don't really have a backup plan. I know I'll figure it out. And you yourself probably know that you've always managed no matter what has happened. So you can take solace in that even if everything goes worst case scenario, you'll figure it out. Worst case scenario, I can get a 9 to 5. Yeah, throw a LinkedIn connection my way as well, and keep me posted on your progress. Any questions, drop me an email. I'll be happy to chat with you. But thanks everyone for signing up. Really appreciate it, and best of luck with whatever it is you decide to do. Take care.